NerdandSon.
Welcome to the Nerd and Son podcast. I am Nerd. I am Ralph.
I'm Son. I'm Connor.
Hey, and with that, if you wanted to get a hold of us at the podcast, we do have a link tree that's linked down in the description. Go ahead and click on that. You can find us on our social medias and direct email and everything to get a hold of us. But with that, hey, I am happy to be doing another episode, and I'm glad to be with you, Son. One more.
One more.
Yes. How's your week been?
It's been, it's just,
It's a question I wasn't ready for.
I wasn't. You caught me off guard.
On guard. Oh, off guard. Off guard. Yes. All right. So,
How about yours? How has your week been?
Oh, it's busy. It's busy. But hey, that's life. Which I don't really understand. The older I get, the more projects I have going on at the same time. I want to be young again with no responsibility.
I wish I could just play more Helldivers 2. Like that's all I want to do. I just want to sit down, play Helldivers 2, and just do that and just sit there. But I can't.
Oh, see, I was going back and I was doing the pixel remaster of all the original Final Fantasies, and I got through 1, 2, 3, where I got the platinums on that, on the PlayStations where I'm playing them, and I'm halfway through 4, which I remember playing when it first came out as the SNES system, which is Final Fantasy 2. Yeah, that's why I bought the SNES system back then. I mean, that was my senior year of high school when that thing released.
Back in my day.
Yes. So I remember playing it somewhat, replaying it as a remaster. It's like, I don't even remember this at all, but just gotten busy. I'm only halfway through it, and I need to finish that up eventually, but yeah. Oh, time. Time is slipping away.
Yep.
So, okay. But I guess today we are going to go ahead and work on another episode of our environmental series.
Yep.
And today we have, what do we have? I'll let you take lead on this.
We have dessert.
Ooh, cool. Are you a cake person or pie person?
Honestly, cake instead of pie. But a good sweet potato pie is trumps everything. Now I want pie.
Screw the recording. I want pie.
All right, bye.
Okay. Oh, great. He logs out. That is awesome. Thank you. Hi. Bach. Okay. So, all right. Let's go ahead and talk about dessert.
Yep. Yeah, so this is a bit of an unconventional one, right? So if you are, let's say, wanting to go through hills made of ice cream and chocolate fudge waterfalls, this is what we're talking about, right? Where your dessert, the dessert lands.
Okay. Can we do something real fast? And we're going to do this without stopping the recording. Actually, I'm going to pause and restart real fast because you are out of sync.
All right.
Okay. We're good. Okay.
That's so upsetting. One of my favorite jokes to make in a Discord call is just to leave the Discord for a minute and come back. Now I know that that's going to fuck everything up. That's upsetting.
Yeah. See, you're one of those people. One of those people.
Yes, you are right.
I am.
I will get fake upset at something that somebody says and leave.
You and your drama, I swear.
You're right.
Okay, so we're talking about hills of ice cream covered in chocolate fudge.
Yep. So I'm gonna read off a little intro, tiny intro to get us set into the setting. All right.
Okay. And first of all, do you want to say it's not actually ice cream and dessert?
No.
Okay.
Just close your eyes and enter the mind palaces. A tumbleweed bounces across the path as the party enters town. The sand-swept town is quiet, but the few people that are out and about stopped what they're doing and are staring, clearly wary of outsiders, especially outsiders so well-armed. Right? So we're not talking about dessert with 2 S's, we're talking about desert with 1.
Ah, yes. You took an S away. It's not as sweet. So, yeah. This one is going to be about desert's dryness, not having water.
Dry, exactly. And we'll get into not having water in a little bit. But when we decided to do desert, right, I started looking stuff up for this, and I realized that I, as, culturally and what I know, I can't speak on any, like, Arabian Nights type settings, or any of the, Middle Eastern inspired or, African inspired, settings or, like, the mythologies there.
Right.
And so it's very difficult for me to try to, talk with any sense of authority on how you should play these things, right?
Yeah.
So I decided to do this on more of a Wild West system, where, some of the basics of being in a desert are the same, but, it's more of a cultural standpoint that I can talk about.
Right. And then, the only thing I would think about that is because you're talking about deserts. In my mind, I kind of get the idea of more of the Arabian Nights. You got your camels, you have people riding those back up. You got them covering up their face, sandstorms, all the wrappings to keep in the moisture and stuff, and pyramids, the Sphinx, everything else like that too. So that's kind of my setting on that. And honestly, in a lot of the books, even the Forgotten Realms, you have sections in that give you kind of like the Arabian gods that you can help and stuff like that too. And even if you're not wanting to really mess with the culture, not knowing everything and all the little fine details, you can still kind of wing it, do kind of different things like that without actually doing that if you're not comfortable. But do what you think is comfortable.
You can still add those things into the setting, right? It's a fantasy. You can have Wild West next to, tombs with mummies and curses and stuff like that.
Yes.
And run that completely straight because, it's the fantasy is yours, right? You can do whatever you want to do. At the end of the day, we are playing pretend as a group, so we can add whatever we want.
So that is absolutely true. But yes, Wild West and Desert is awesome.
Yep. And I tried to open this with pros and cons, just like I did with Pirates a couple episodes ago. And I thought of the exact same things, right? The aesthetic and the tropes and everything. If that appeals to you, you're already locked in, right? It's another thing that's very, you're either in or you're out.
Yeah. Right? Sand is just like dry water.
I hate sand. It's coarse, rough, irritating, and it gets everywhere.
Especially stuck in between your bikini, I know.
Yeah. But, whenever you're talking about a tone or a setting that you want to do, make sure you talk to your players before you do that. Or if you're a player and your DM opens up and says, "Oh, I want to do this. I want to run this kind of campaign," and tell them if that's not something you're into. Don't try to, just be open and honest. Communication.
Yeah,
that's what's important.
Yeah, and then
yeah.
The only other thing I would say that's like that with communication is if you're doing like a quick one-off. And I'll give you an example is majority of my campaigns actually took place in the Forgotten Realms or Forgotten Realms adjacent. And every once in a while, I would want to do just something a little bit different, just a different environment, things like that. And I always threw in Ravenloft. We always went to Ravenloft. And depending on which kind that you want to do in Ravenloft, you can have the different themes. You have your normal Barovia with your Stravan Zarovich, but you also have your other environments. You got a desert environment, which is Har Akir. Yes, Har Akir. That is in Ravenloft also. And that's going to deal with your pyramids, mummies, and things like that too. So this don't have to be a whole campaign. You can actually use this kind of stuff as a one-off. Same thing as you could do with anything else too. This is just going to give you a bunch of ideas to things you can think about, or ideas that you didn't think about before running a campaign too. So,
absolutely, absolutely. So getting into this, right? We are a pretty D&D heavy podcast. We talk from the perspective as if you are playing D&D, right?
Yeah.
And anything else is kind of a variation. But if you want to talk Westerns, it can be served, especially with the question of guns, which we will talk about, right? But the question of, the whole setting and everything, it is not necessarily made for this. So there are several other settings that you can use and systems that you can use that could be a little better, right?
Yeah.
The main one is Deadlands, right? If you talk to any RPG like veteran about, and you say, "Oh, I want a Western style RPG," right? This is more than likely going to be their first thing that they point you to. They'll be like, "Oh, go check out Deadlands," and that is, Weird West. It is the alternate universe kind of like supernatural Western stuff, right?
Yeah, and there was one in the '80s that came out, which was called Boot Hill, which is similar to that. Granted, the Deadlands Weird West was a whole lot better, but yeah, there is a bunch of other one shots, and I think Boot Hill was actually a TSR too when it came out. Just one of their smaller brands like Starjammer and stuff like that didn't really get out too super popular, but yeah. Like I actually might have a copy of it someplace. I can't remember. I have to look. I got so much stuff.
But also in my research looking up, it looks like there's another one. I haven't looked too much into this, but it was pointed out to me, or at least found that someone was pointing to a game called Shooting Iron for regular West, right? No supernatural. This is exactly what it is on the tin. You're playing out a Louis L'Amour book. It is straight West.
Oh, right? That's cool. Yeah.
And then there's a game called We Deal in Lead. I should have grabbed it from my shelf. But We Deal in Lead is specifically, I said in the notes, I said even weirder West because it is the Dark Tower.
Yeah.
It is your quartet wandering the dying lands of the Outworld and all that, or whatever.
Yes. And if you're not familiar with the Dark Tower series, quartet is actually not a real word. Quartet is one of the words that Stephen King makes up because in every book he makes up his own words that just seems to work, and this is one of them that just seems to work. Same things with the Ka inside the Dark Tower series. But basically the quartet is basically another word for a party of people in your group. But yes, Dark Tower, and that's still the Gunslinger, the first book, still has one of the best opening that you have for a Western.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I'm thinking of the wording specifically, and I'm drawing a blank. It's something about...
The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. That's the opening.
Yes, that is it. Word by word, that is it. And honestly, it's very simple, but very, very powerful as you go. Yeah, that's... yeah, very simple, but yeah, it doesn't seem like much at first, but once you start reading, it's like... That is the essence of the whole story.
And it's such a simple opener, and it's got the same, I think very few opening lines are as good, right?
Yeah.
I only know two off the top of my head, off rip. I can tell you two openers to books. One of those is The Gunslinger by Stephen King. The other one is In a Hole in the Ground Lived a Hobbit, right? Because it's just simple. It's easy.
Yeah. Yeah, that is absolutely true. And as soon as you said that, I'm like, yep, I know exactly. Yep.
Yeah. So, that was a really good one. I've read through that once. Maybe we could talk an episode on that or something. But if you don't want to do either of those, right? You don't want to search a different system. You don't want to learn a different system. I understand because, RPGs are pretty complicated. And once you learn one, it's kind of difficult to like course correct and change up how you play.
Right.
I advocate for it, but I understand why it can be difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there are some out there. The OGL exists specifically for this reason.
Yeah.
So that people can take it and twist it around and, Rubik's Cube it into something new. And so there is undoubtedly an OGL Western RPG conversion.
There's a lot of them. So you can look those up rather easily. You can actually go to Drive-Thru RPG and look up Western 5e, and you'll pull up a bunch of those. So.
Yep. And then you have stuff here. You were talking about that TSR game, right?
Yeah, I was actually was in the 80s. There was a TSR game that actually dealt strictly with Ravenloft. And I don't know why I can't remember the name. I even tried to look it up and I wasn't referencing it all. But TSR actually had a dungeon builder that they came out with, which all their games, like Beholder 1, 2, and 3, which was all created in this program. And even the other TSR's game, because there was a Ravenloft that dealt with the Barovia, and then there's the other Ravenloft ones, which I remember I got, which dealt with the desert and a mummy and the desert area, which was Harakir. So, yeah, there's games and stuff that followed the Dungeons and Dragons rules, but we're set in more desert areas. So,
yep, absolutely,
yeah.
So,
and they say have that too, so because even that, I mean, same with the Ravenloft, just to be different, it's one-off, and I mentioned that Harakir, but yeah, there's a couple other lands in that called the Amber Wastes, which you have Simbua, and I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that wrong, and my mind just went completely blank. Fazaria,
sure,
like Pharaoh, sure. Ferzaria, something like that. It's a play off the word Pharaoh. And
okay,
so that could be closer to D&D adjacent than going off and doing like the Weird West and everything else like that, if that's something more you're interested in.
Absolutely. And speaking of D&D and playing a game in this setting, I think a big question that'll come up, because D&D is swords and spells, right?
Yeah.
And when you're talking about the West and putting these things in, the question will come up, do you want guns or not? Right? And you can sit there and you can try to make it out. I know that there are, let me look this up real quick, because I know that the DMG has rules for guns.
Yes, they do. They do. Very minor on that, but they do.
It's just a little tiny part, just in case. Okay, so it looks like pistol. Let's see, 1d10 piercing, ammunition, and the loading rule. And the loading rule means that you have to take a round to load it.
Yeah. And depending on the type of firearm and everything like that, you can have multiple shots per round. So you're not just doing one shot every 6 seconds. You can fire, depending on your pistols and your skills, 3, 4, 5, 6 times in that 6-second round. So depending on how you want to do that. So you can fire your 6 shots, next round reload, next round fire 6 shots again. Whole bunch of different rules and everything on that too. So, and this is just my opinion. If we're going to play a desert Western fantasy, I don't do guns. Okay?
I understand.
Now, if I'm playing a Western horror which still is sort of a typical fantasy, but
Yeah.
if it's more horror, then yes, I have guns in the game. That's just kind of my opinion, and I kind of look at everything a little bit differently on that too. I mean, you can actually come up with some contraptions in the fantasy version that I have in my head, which would be more like a hand crossbows, hand bows, different things like that, but not lead. You're not firing lead. That's just me, but you can do it a whole bunch of different ways.
And that's only in D&D. In Pathfinder, you have the gunslinger class like built into the game.
Yeah.
And everything, you know, built around that to make sure everything's fine. And if I remember correctly, it's actually, I think I played a character that did it, and I do remember enjoying it.
Okay.
And the mechanics of it.
All right.
But that was many moons ago, and I don't know anymore.
Yeah, that was just one thing I didn't do in my campaigns. That was kind of one of my rules. I just did not do firearms. So
yeah, it's just aligned across because you're playing, you know, sword and sorcery fantasy.
Yeah,
and it's aligned across. That why would you do anything else? When you're playing these games, right? Things to consider is for survival issues, right? Between places of civilization, you're gonna run into problems of water.
Yes.
The main concern is water and where to find it, right? You generally have trade routes with oases at certain junctions, and basically you can really only walk through where these oases have water, and so you should have somebody who knows the path, who knows where, you know, and you can have an NPC guide who takes people to different oases, right? And it's also a known place where a lot of people travel through. You're gonna have bandits there, right?
Yes.
There's your built-in spot for, you know, bandits and people to antagonize the party there.
Yeah. Because you only have a limited amount, and those things are going to be treasured or hoarded over.
And so you can get it through plants, though, right? You can get it through cactuses, right? You can get cactus juice because it'll quench you. It's the quenchiest.
So I have to recall, because I've seen where they can drink if you need to cactus juice, but if I recall, you have to watch out how much, because then it's like too much is bad for you. I don't remember why.
I only know from Avatar. It'll get you high.
And that's where our knowledge comes from. We are experts.
Yeah. You can trust us.
Yes. As in, don't.
So you can also run into sandstorms, of course.
Yep.
And you're dealing with sand. You're gonna have quicksand and sinkholes.
Yes.
Right. Sand is a big issue, and there's a lot of it.
Yes. And I think the biggest thing too is just your traversing, because you're going to have wind, sand. It's going to change your landscapes. If it's not just a dry place, but you have your sand dunes and stuff like that, they're going to shift. They're going to move. So not everything looks the same.
Absolutely.
So your survival skill and tracking everything has to be really, really high on that. So
yeah, if you see prints in the desert, that means they're fresh.
Right.
So, and speaking of survival and like searching and surviving, of course, some of the things that you can find are prickly pears, right? Those are some of your plants, and agave comes from here too, desert areas.
Yep.
And of course, cactus, right? And so these are some of the
cactus.
Yeah, I know, right?
Oh wow. Okay.
They're not just a thing that white people put in their backyards.
Oh, that's just what I thought. Okay, I thought they were. Yeah, I'm just. Yeah, thought there were just those little ornamental things you find in a little cup at the store that you put in your little air aquariums.
Yeah, for college kids, so that they have something they can take care of without remembering it exists.
Yes. Unlike that goldfish you won at that fair that was upright, belly sticking up like 2 days later. As a parent, you walk in there going, "How long's that been dead?" And your child looks back at you and goes, "What are you talking about?" "Oh, that thing." Yeah. Okay.
So if you have a ranger in your party, right, this is the kind of stuff that you're going to be scavenging for.
Yeah.
If you run out of food. And things that you're going to run into, right, your fantasy creatures, you're going to have, your... looking at it, it was all Yuan-Ti and snake things. It was a lot of stuff. A lot of Yuan-Ti and snake monsters, coming up on the list when you go through and you're like, oh, buy this. It's Naga, Lamia, Medusa. It's all snake things.
Yes. And that is more of just with your background with like your Egyptian, the gods and everything else on that too. I mean, same thing too. You're going to have by the Nile, if you have a single river running through the desert, you're going to have your crocodiles. You're going to have other animals like that too. And you can look like if you go back to your Egyptian pantheon, you got your panther, and I'm going to butcher this, so I apologize. You're going to have your panther god. And I don't know if that's called boss the same way it is in the MCU or not. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, you're going to have all those different creatures and everything, so it gives you kind of an idea what they think about.
And then you have supposedly in the desert you have blue and brass dragons.
Do they exist?
Can neither confirm nor deny.
Okay, that's what the supposedly comes from.
Yeah, supposedly.
Okay.
Another thing, right? I actually do take an issue with some of the things within D&D, right? Because what I understand from real life, and I could be way off base on this. I don't know. I'm not a biologist. But
a biologist.
I understand that the predators in the desert are ambush predators.
Yes.
So why would things like the bullet and the remoras be in forest and ice areas? They should be desert things, burrowing underground and popping up and attacking. Just like in Dune, you have your worms, right?
Yes, exactly.
And so I think from looking at the monster manual, I think that is a hole, a wormhole that needs to be filled.
Yeah, well, you can do the same thing too. I mean, you just move your monsters over. You can have your bullets and stuff like that, your Rimmerhas. You can have your sand sharks. Just change them up just slightly, or don't even have to change them. Just they'll work the same way. Sand, soil, it's not going to matter which way they're burrowing through.
The only thing, because I was looking at the Rimmer's stat block to see if you could just direct do it. The only thing is it's got a heat ability.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's like it burns hot. But that's, you can just...
Well, here's what you do is you change the color and you make it a cold ability. Okay? Which then at that point in your game, I mean, that's all you had to change. You don't even have to change any other stats. Just change the color and change the ability, and it works identically just in the desert. And then also, too, you can have like little side quest or whatever, because you have to actually get some parts off of Rimahas, because those are treasured to keep people cool as they're traversing across the desert. So you could have fun parts and everything that way. That way you can get your Monster Hunter game inside your desert area, too.
Absolutely. So it's it all ties together.
Yep.
Make sure it's a very interesting thing to try to do, where instead of just oh, here's a random encounter, right? Here's a random sandworm that,
Yeah.
I don't have anything to put in here. You can make something like that where, the like you said, like the Remoraz, the cold Remoraz is it's a treasured thing because it keeps things cold,
Yeah. And I'm a big thing because I've
used that,
Yeah, because I've mentioned a couple times, especially with monsters and everything, they're all universal. You can use those whatever, and I'm a huge fan of just templates. Okay, I need this monster. I like this monster, but I want it in this area. You know what? I'm just going to throw this template on it, and that changes up the whole monster, the environment, the feel, even though you're pretty much using the same stats. You can just design it the way you want to. I mean, the sky's the limit on that. But yeah, it's really that simple.
Absolutely. And it's interesting to try to make it fit within the world in a believable way to, have it so that, just like you said, like, oh, this is a special ability of this creature. And so the people will use it as, to their advantage.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the same thing too. If you just want to like more theme it for the desert area, and we're going to go back to the bullet because I know that's your favorite creature, is you got them in the forest and stuff like that. They're going to have like a bluish silver body with like a bone beak with bone and everything, color and stuff like that. Now you got your desert. It can have the exact same stats. Don't have to change anything, but just change the color. This one's going to be like orange with a reddish hue on the body and the fin and stuff like that too. You kind of change the color. And even though technically as a DM you're not changing anything, as a player to you, this is like, oh, this is a new creature we've not actually dealt with before. You don't have to tell them it's the same creature, just reskinned. And also same thing too. It's just like playing any video game. It's just a reskinned creature. So
absolutely. I got distracted for a second.
Are you looking up the color of a bullet?
No, what I'm wanting, and it's not on Amazon, I wanted real quick, because every single bullet miniature, right? They're all painted. Yeah. I wanted an unpainted bullet mini so that I could paint it.
Just get a regular bullet mini and paint it.
Then prime it. I could prime it, but like...
Yeah. And I have, I know I've gotten these things out before. I can reach down here because put it back. I have 4 of these.
Yep.
So
I was playing with that thing as a kid.
Yeah, you can take one and repaint it. Not a problem. I have 4 of them. So, okay. But yay.
Wahoo!
All right.
So other things, right? Like we talked about, we might be talking about Wild West and a more Western focus here, but that doesn't mean that you can't add mummies, sphinxes, scarabs, and all that stuff. All that stuff that's generally like Egyptian, and like you could add the Middle Eastern stuff, like your jinn and stuff. You could add those kinds of things.
Right.
And just port it over into your fantasy game. I mean, it's still a desert, it's still a fantasy game.
Yeah.
And it could still work.
It does. And also too, you can still use the tropes like Egyptians. Say you're in the Wild West and you're going through this huge valley, and at the end of the valley is this pyramid, not really a pyramid, but this pyramid-like structure that's at the end of the valley. Okay? And so you can still be in your Western type of thing, have your Egyptian kind of theme influence, and also to use the tropes of that, because as your gunslinger is traversing the tomb pyramid and everything like that, that could be riddled with traps. And then that is something that is basically, when you think of your pyramids, mummies, and going through those things, all those weird traps. So,
yep. I mean, what's different than a fantasy medieval dungeon, right? and your fantasy Egyptian dungeon, and it's really just the color palette.
It's just the color palette, and you're playing up your tropes at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So you can just play up the tropes you want to.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of Westerns, and the Western focus, if you want to get into the mindset, into your mind palace about the media that you can consume in order to put yourself into the story, right? I thought I wanted to try to figure out the best TV show to watch, because I'm not going to be like, oh, watch these 5 TV shows, right? I picked Deadwood as the perfect, watch this.
Deadwood is awesome. Love Deadwood. Okay. If you want an awesome Western themed, like just a quick movie and everything like that, okay, you have, besides your Deadwood, which your show and stuff like that, 510 to Yuma. Okay. Awesome thing like that. Plus, my mind just went completely blank. Clint Eastwood's last Western. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, I didn't even put the good and the bad and the ugly, like your
your classic spaghetti westerns and everything.
Yeah, your spaghetti westerns, your what's the trilogy called?
What is the trilogy called?
Don't know. All right. Jamie, look that up.
Yeah. So you got the trilogy on that too, but yeah, if you want to go, and while you're looking that up, I'll go through some of your lists that you have here too, on the same things of Western.
The Dollars trilogy.
The what? The Dollars trilogy?
Yeah, also known as the Man with No Name trilogy.
Oh yeah, and honestly, it was more than spaghetti westerns, because the Man with No Name actually, he was in a couple westerns, or at least one western with his wife at the time. It was a newer one that actually was made in the late 80s, which was actually in the same with the Man with No Name. So, which was really, really cool.
Could not tell you.
Okay. I'm going through these things. I wasn't prepped for any of these movies here, so I'm just going out of my brain or memory and everything.
Because I put a movie down here because, let's face it, what is the tone that a lot of games take? It's more comedic. When we think of comedic Western movies, it's Blazing Saddles.
Yes. A classic movie, which it's different how movies happen and taken one way, and that's very, very offensive today. Even though it's not meant to be offensive, they play on those tropes.
I'm gonna go off here, all right? You absolutely, it was offensive at its time, okay?
Yes. It was offensive at its time.
But it was saying something, right? And the thing is that when people are like, oh, you couldn't make Blazing Saddles today, you're right. You couldn't, because you're not saying the same things. You're not making the same jokes. You're not making the same, you're not saying the same thing about society. Society shifted. You would say something different about society. Yeah,
that is actually a very, very good point.
So, when people are like, oh, so up in arms about it, you wouldn't make Blazing Saddles today, and it's like, yeah, you're right. We would make something different.
Right.
It would be like a superhero movie where it's playing on those tropes. Mm-hmm. And so it's a very when people say that and are super serious about that kind of thing, they're not looking into the deeper context of.
That is absolutely true, because I will tell you right now, because I've seen so many shifts of stuff that was done in the 70s, shift stuff in the 80s, shift stuff in the 90s, and even the 2000s. I'll tell you right now, there's movies out now that are going to be, that we think is awesome. 25, 30 years from now, they're going to be going, why did people actually make that kind of stuff? They were insensitive. Or that just doesn't fly. Why did they do that? Everything shifts. Everything changes. So, for the better in most cases. So, but
yeah, in most cases, I would agree. So for video games, though, right? You have Red Dead Redemption 2,
or
Assassin's Creed Origins, right?
Yes.
You want to talk desert? Yeah.
Yes, which I
Excellent.
really like that one and everything too. That gave you more of the desert feel with going through the tombs and looking through the Sphinx, and it's
I would also venture to say it's a separate context, right, and a different tone. I would say that you could add Fallout, like the original Fallout games.
Yeah.
And New Vegas. Those are westerns.
Yeah, New Vegas is definitely a straight western with your 50s retro nuke stuff. And,
yeah, it's crazy, and like you know when we talk about like you know morphing and like collecting different tropes of different genres and stuff like that. You know, 50s nuclear with western and putting those together, and fuck it, why not add some sword and sorcery in there? Like it'd be a jumbled mess, but it'd be a great time.
Yeah, because I can give it right here. Because have you seen any of the Fallout series?
I did. I finished it.
You finished it. Okay, don't tell me anything. I've seen 2 episodes, okay? And exactly what you're talking about. Just if you've not seen the Fallout show, watch it. I'm only 2 episodes in, but yeah, it's basically your desert wasteland environment. And the way they actually play the ghoul and everything like that, it's just like, this is awesome. That you got your aesthetics, your 50s, 60s, it's all combined, and you can have fun with it. Absolutely. Even though this show is serious to a certain extent, it got this comedic undertones.
Well, absolutely, and that's where a lot of the comedy comes from, is because they're not like oh hey cousin stuff is for kids. They don't do that. They play it straight, and like because it's believable within the world, within the context of the world.
Yes,
and it's they play it straight, and that's where the comedy comes from, is because they play that straight, right? That line about cousin fucking is like it's a blink and you'll miss it. And
I gotta remember to probably bleep some of that out, but you'll see. Yeah.
But that's the whole thing, is that like the comedic parts of Fallout are comedic to us, because we see the comedy in it that's completely serious to the characters.
Yes. So
and that's why I would call it western, and add this into here.
And I mean, tied onto that with your nuclear and everything, one of the other things too, and this can go more towards a horror in a desert, and just think of all the black and white movies that came out in the 50s and 60s with your giant radioactive bugs from the bombs and stuff that were going off in the test site. So your giant scorpions in the desert, or everything else like that too.
I can't believe we didn't put that under creatures. Giant scorpion. That has to happen.
Yeah, but that's you got your things that are radiate and everything that way too. I'm trying to remember the movie, and it had a couple people in it, but basically they were leaving a bunker. It was in a radiated country, and they were traveling to another area, and I apologize. It had a few people in there. I can't remember what their names are, but they went to this town, which everything was eaten and everything like bone white, no sense of vegetation or anything like that. And apparently they were playing off the trope that the only thing that survives during a nuclear blast is the cockroaches. And if I recall, there was a scene where they were trying to escape, and all the millions of cockroaches just came out, covered this one person, and then next thing you see, all they are just white bones. Every bit of flesh is stripped off of them within seconds. So see, that's something that you can kind of play on if you wanted to do, because they were driving through the desert and radiated areas.
Shit, it looks like just off the top of my head, Damnation Alley.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Okay.
It had the guy who played in Airwolf and the guy that actually played in A-Team. That's really helpful, isn't it?
Yeah. Damnation Alley. Let's look this up. Let's see. What's its Rotten Tomatoes? 45% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh yeah, it's a crap movie, but it's one of those
34 audience score. Yep. Disgusting.
It's a crap movie, but it is one of those ones that is a good crap.
Oh, I would love to watch this sometime.
Okay. So yeah, we need to do that where we actually do like where we would just watch
like
bad movies and everything
theater.
like that. Oh yeah.
But like
uh-huh.
No, we have Mystery Science Theater 3000 at home. It's our show.
Oh, but yeah. There's a whole bunch of different options you can do with this stuff, which is great. So, or you could do, and I do need to see it. I'm sorry, I've failed at this thing. I have not seen either one of the Dune movies. Neither one. So,
well, it is a time sink. I will give you that.
But that's okay. But if we're talking about deserts and everything like that, that is a whole fantasy setting.
Lisan al-Gaib!
Fantasy sci-fi.
I will say, me and my friends are so fucking confused on why they made Christopher Walken the Emperor.
Why would you not?
Because you could have somebody else, right? I think the what's his name? What's his name?
I have no idea.
The guy who plays Cleon in Foundation.
You know, I've not watched Foundation.
You need to. So good. Lee Pace. He
Lee
plays
Pace.
the
okay, I know who Lee Pace is.
Elvin King, and yeah, so it's Lee Pace, right? And he is just so fucking like he would be perfect because Dune was based on Foundation. Right, and so if you have that character playing the same, like you're basically playing the same character.
Yeah, so I didn't know Doom was based on Foundation.
Instead of having something, so it was a direct response, right? Because he was Frank Herbert had read Isaac Asimov's Foundation was like, my understanding of it is he went, no, that's not how this would happen, right? This is not how this would occur, right? That your future and like you're somebody who can see the future and stuff like that, and so it turned into something different, but it was generally a direct response, a more cynical view of the future.
Okay, that's something I was not aware of.
Mm-hmm. And so and then that turned into 40K.
Okay.
So 40K is directly ripped off of Dune and Foundation and all that stuff like that. So,
we're going down a weird rabbit hole I'm not even aware of.
It all comes together, yeah.
Yes.
And but anyway,
see how everything happens when you go back
Christopher Walken as the Emperor. Who is this Muad'Dib? Paul Atreides. Hey. Where is my spice? It needs more spice.
It needs more cowbell spice.
Where's the spice?
Oh, I can't do the voice, so that was my only try, and that was a big failure. So, all right. But yeah, with these movies and media, take what you see from TV, and we've said this multiple times before. Steal from TV and what you know, and put it in your game. Because you're probably not the only one going, ooh, that's kind of cool. Your players are probably like that too, going, ooh, I would like to experience that. And we can go back to the Scorpion King. You got your Mummy movies.
Yep.
Couple different things like that too. There's a whole bunch of different things out there. So, yeah, depending on what you want. So, yeah. Very, very, very nice too. So, but yeah.
Indeed.
Whole bunch of different systems, options, everything out there. And I thought that was a very good point at the beginning where we were talking about the different game systems and seeing different things too. Because if we go back to the first ones you're talking about, your Deadlands, what is it? The Revenant Gunslinger, one of the big bad creatures.
Something.
The floating half body, all black gunslinger.
That sounds so fucking cool.
It is. I think it's all black. I think it's the Revenants in the game. I could be wrong, but it's just one of these pictures of that game system that I remember. So
it's very evocative. From the small thing you said, just very evocative.
Yeah.
Let me look. Let me look it up.
Look that up there. And while you're looking that up, let's go ahead at this particular point and let's take a break, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Hi guys, if you want to take a break from role playing and watch someone burn their face off while eating hot peppers, head on over to YouTube at 13 Peppers and like and subscribe. And if you want to grow these peppers yourself, you can actually purchase these seeds at 13peppersbyralph.com. With that, have a good day.
Okay, and we are back. So, so we had to talk about a couple different things, and while we're looking that up and took our break that we had, yes, they are called revenants in the Weird West, the Deadlands series. So, cool creatures that are just hunting you out of pure vengeance. So, very, very nice.
Are we gonna end up playing? What are we gonna end up playing? Like, are we just gonna play in like Ravenloft?
I love Ravenloft, but I think that is like one-offs every once in a while from a horror aspect, because I really like playing that really dark. And that's not something I want an overall campaign to actually do. Just more, just more one-offs every once in a while. That kind of just changes up the whole tone, because even if you're doing something high fantasy and it's the same thing over and over and over again, every once in a while you just need something just to change it up. And I kind of like it that way. Plus, with the kind of world I've been working on and campaign that I've been kind of expanding out, that is going to kind of play a part of it. And I want to change up in the campaign that we're going to be doing, so everybody can listen to this and everything, which is not a problem. I want to change up the Vistani into a completely different race to kind of work with our campaign game and everything like that, but still keep that kind of tone of the Vistani travelers. Okay. So, because I really like the whole thing with the tarot cards and stuff, and I was actually learning how to do some of the tarot cards. I didn't get that far into it, but setting the cards up as you're doing this, specifically as you're playing in the game, can actually makes the game just kind of wonderful, kind of just brings everybody into it. So
absolutely, having something tactile and like something like extra into it. Yeah,
so if you can just involve players right into exactly what you're doing, I mean, it's just great. So, but yeah, that's kind of a highlight of things that we're working on overall. So, but at this particular point, I guess we are at, well, actually, do you have any more comments or anything with the dessert with minus an S? Your desert?
Nope.
Okay.
I think we got it. I think we wrapped it up in a nice little bow at the end.
Okay, that works. Excuse me.
Gross.
I need a cough button. I really do. But let's go
it's
ahead.
The button that makes the cough sound.
Yes. Or some kind of animation. I'll throw something up in the edit. Yes, that's all fun. The power of editing. So. Okay, let's go ahead. We'll get into our adventure corner this week. So we are still doing our alphabet, and we are at the letter K.
Okay. K is for cookie. That's good enough for me.
You're too old to even fix your spelling on that. That's okay. Forget that. Okay. Okay. Well, this adventure for K, we're going to call this Kragan's Lair.
Okay.
And Kragan with a K. Kragon apostrophe S.
That's a little too close to things that don't exist.
Exactly. Like your little stuffed animal back there.
Yeah.
Visually, you can't see, or audibly. Yes, that's a word.
For audio listeners.
Yes, for audio listeners, he has a imaginary lizard creature with wings as a stuffed animal.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's one of those weighted stuffed animals at Target, and I grabbed it because I thought it was adorable.
It's so adorbs.
It's cute as fuck. Look at this little guy. Look at him. Look at him. He's so fucking cute. No,
that works.
Hang on.
I know your camera went blurry.
My camera. It's because it blurred because my butt was in the frame.
Oh, I'm glad it blurred then. Trust me.
Swoop.
Okay.
It didn't fly.
All right. Okay.
Well, there we go.
There you go. All right, so this is called Kraglin's Lair, okay? And basically, this is just a set of old ruins that is nestled in the side of a small mountain range, some distance outside of a small village, okay? So that kind of just gives you kind of a random setup and everything like that, okay? The ruins themselves, the villagers know about it, but they've been cleaned out decades ago by looters and everything else like that, too.
Yeah.
Don't know who actually created the ruins. There's no specific information or anything left. Everything's kind of just been wiped clean, so you don't know if it was a religious site or anything else like that, too, okay? And some of the rumors just recently, like if you got your players traveling to the town, some of the rumors that just have arisen lately of just weird stuff happening around the ruins, okay? And one of these stories is there's some kind of curse placed on the ruins just because at one point there was some priest that was murdered there. And somebody must have disturbed the ruins, and now the priest is angry and casting his curse out on anybody near.
Spooky.
Yeah, you can just kind of make up anything that you actually want on that too. So, but the history of the ruins, and I kind of went over how everything plays out, is these were actually some religious ruins that were ransacked decades before, and any resemblance of the god that has been erased from the grounds. Okay, just from the looting and everything like that.
Disrespectful.
Okay? Yeah, a lot of people are disrespectful. Now, since then, a large kobold clan has moved into the area looking for a new mine to work and also to be lived in. They could have been moved out, they could have been displaced, it could have been a whole bunch of different things, okay? But when they found the ruins and started exploring the ruins, they found a small hole. When excavated, it actually opened up into a large cavern where there was a resting place of this colossal creature whose skull resembled that of the kobolds. Okay?
I see.
Depending on how you wanted to play it in your game, if some things exist and some things don't. We don't know. Okay? Now, the kobold leader, okay, which was named Kragan, okay, started a hardcore religious to worship the remains of this so-called kobold god. He actually thought it was a giant kobold god, and this was the remains. Exactly. So he just went all out on starting the religion and everything like that. Now, the kobolds then basically just became almost like cult-like, okay? And they have been harassing and terrorizing the surrounding area without actually being seen, okay? In the effort to try to keep everybody away. Okay, so that's kind of the background of what's going on. You can kind of modify that any kind of the way that you want, okay? Now, as the encounters and the players kind of get into this, now the players are tasked to find out if there's a truth of this curse, okay? The town could just be worried about it. The town could have a child or somebody, a townsfolk, disappear, and they think it might be because of the curse. It could be a whole bunch of different things. If you got your players sitting in a tavern, not a cavern, but a tavern, you can have a whole bunch of different rumors. A tavern, a whole bunch of different rumors pop up or anything like that to kind of interest that. It could be a whole different things. So, now the other thing, and when the players actually go and explore the ruins or whatever like that, they do come across the kobolds, who are very bold and are willing to die for their new god. And this is actually very different from the normal kobold that you actually deal with in the monster manual. Mostly they're kind of very timid, they're shy, they don't want to do full attack frontal and everything like that. These are different. These are just savage because they have their god and they are going to protect their god. Okay, so you're going to be
use the goblin stat line or something.
Well, you could do the kobolds, but just don't make them shy. You can actually bump up their CR just a little bit and their strength to kind of reflect their savageness. Yeah. Yes. I mean, you don't really adjust their hit points because they're also kind of smaller creatures, but you can bump up their strength, which actually bumps up their damage, and that kind of makes them a little bit more ferocious.
it's something that, like, it's instead of raising the CR where you don't hit as much, you could raise their hit points so that they have to hit more, and it makes them a little beefier.
Yeah.
While, the players get the satisfaction of actually hitting.
Right. So, but yeah,
that's your trade-off when you raise CR.
Yeah, you could do it any kind of way that you actually want on that, but that kind of gives you an option. And then also, too, with these kobolds, you can introduce other kobolds. You could have a kobold bruisers. I mean, granted, they're only like this tall, but they can be your real beefy guy. You got your kobold clerics that are going through. Now, how they are actually getting any clerical powers, depending on how your system is set up in your campaign that you're running for your god system, or however you're planning to do that, or aspects, or however you can kind of play off that, and not to be anything specific that's there. It's just however your thing is set up. If I've stumbled over these words so many much.
So I've always done it where because I don't necessarily like messing with gods and stuff and having them in the world.
Yeah.
And so I like to use clerical powers, explaining them as belief is power within itself, right?
Yes.
And so your holy stuff comes from belief. And that's the power that it comes from. And you can believe that it's a god. You can just believe that you have this power, right? And so you could have, atheist clerics or something, but it's all from belief, and that's where the power comes from. So it's my ability to have an agnostic setting while still having and not having gods that are actually in and meddling with the affairs of mortals,
right,
while still having the option for clerics and paladins and such.
Yeah, because honestly, you have all the gods, and Faerun, Forgotten Realms, is very bad on that because they deal with everything, and they take away the player's sense of choice or anything else like that too. It kind of takes that away. And we did a whole campaign dealing with Mistra. They were doing during the time of troubles when she disappeared, and they were on a separate plane, having to deal with her aspect as a child. They didn't know it and anything like that. And yeah, it takes away from player agency. The campaign and everything worked out fine, but there was a lot of stuff that it just could have actually done better. And I like some of the talk that we've actually done before where we were talking, once again, we'll go back to the Dark Tower, where you have the spokes and you have your aspects. You got your bear, you got your turtle, and everything like that. And playing your cosmology up through your aspects.
Yep.
So, but yeah. What are we doing here? Yes. So, and you can verify and have variety in your kobolds to kind of make it challenging and everything like that. Now, the kobold leader, Kragan, okay, I want him to be set up as a cleric, and he can be adjusted up to match your players. Okay, up the CR, up his power level, his belief, his spells, everything else like that. How he's getting that to be a real challenge to the players. And what kind of makes this interesting, because he's going to be like the big boss, but you're going to have all the other kobolds kind of wearing down the players before they get to the big boss. So you kind of want to make it a nice challenge. Okay. Now, when they're doing all this, the players can discover the bones, okay, of this large kobold god, because dragons don't exist, and if they search well enough to find the small excavated hold that leads to the cavern where it's at, okay? Or if you're playing a campaign, which I kind of like the idea of dragons as a mystery, this could be an actual dragon skull that is found, but it's been like hoisted up and propped up on top of the cavern, so everybody can come in and they can look up and they can see this skull and worship it. But during the final battle, that thing comes crashing down and crumbles into a million pieces. So now you have no proof, and that puts the dragons back as a rumor. So depending on how you want to play your campaign or anything else like that too. But this is kind of overall what the encounter is. Just kind of be a little bit different. Have a very cultist like kobolds, because kobolds are kind of like you kind of just sweep them by. A lot of people don't even use them in their games, just more of just pesky annoyances. This way you can actually use a simple creature and make them a lot more powerful.
Absolutely.
On that too. And then if you wanted to, you can actually use, there's a whole bunch of different maps. You can use the Donjon map generator to create a little cavern system or a little church that's tied to a cavern. You can draw one that has 9-10 rooms and then have a cavern in the back of it. There's a whole bunch of different things that you can do and a whole bunch of different maps you can use if you don't want to draw your own.
Yeah.
I think once I do flesh this out, I'll have a map and everything for it. But in the meantime, yeah, this is kind of just a general idea that you can actually use as an encounter. So, yay. I actually love making these things. These are fun. So, all right, what do you think of that?
I think it's good. I think it's a good little setup for an adventure. And a little, little side story on the, path to whatever the campaign is.
Yeah.
Little side quest.
Yeah, and I kind of like that because when I start making it and putting the creatures in and everything like that, I was kind of feeling, oh, this could be the story. This could be the way it plays and everything too. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I love making these little encounters. These are just fun for me. So, okay, and then that is letter K.
Woo!
Yay! And apparently, for you, K is for cookie.
L is next. K is for cookie.
Okay.
So I have L next week.
Yes. For love.
Ooh. L is for the way you look at me. Oh.
Oh, now you definitely don't have to sing.
No.
Why not?
That's it.
I sung for you. You can sing too.
Nah.
Okay. Well, that is about it. Do you have anything else you want to add onto this?
No. But I do have a question for you.
Yes.
Let's say that I want to learn about a pepper or something or some such, or how to make a hot sauce.
Oh, look at that transition. Look at that. That's just that is awesome. Well, you can actually do that if you go to my other YouTube channel, which is 13 Peppers. There I actually review, taste, eat, grow peppers, any kind of pepper you can actually imagine. I have 140 some videos on that channel now. Most of them are tasting and eating peppers. Some of them are tasting sauces with my son here. But yeah, if you're interested in peppers and want to see somebody burn the hell out of themselves, that's the channel to actually go to. So when you find that, like and subscribe. Same thing with this channel here. Like and subscribe. Follow on your podcaster choice or on YouTube. We would greatly appreciate it. But yeah, do you have anything?
Nope.
One day you're going to have something. You're going to actually really surprise me. You're like, yes, I have something.
Yep. And until then, you can't reach me. And if you want to try to reach me, don't. That's it.
Wow. That really makes our link tree that we have in our description really useful. But
they can talk to the podcast. They can talk to us as a podcast, but just not me individually.
You are so antisocial.
I'm anti-social media.
Anti-social media, yeah. But if you do go, we do respond to the anything question-wise or anything like that on the social media, so that is not a problem. But with that, I think that is it for the evening. My name is Ralph. I am Nerd.
And I'm Son. I'm Connor. And with that, have a great week.
See ya.